In our latest interview, we speak to William Poole, the US-based confectioner and chocolatier, to discuss some of the challenges faced setting up a new business, what it's been like handling the pandemic over the past 18 months, and also looking at some of the original inspirations that got him into the industry.
And that's a long, crazy story, but I'm going to try and make it as short as possible. Ever since I have been, a kid, I have always been drawn to sweets. And I remember, when I was growing up, my grandparents would take us every year for winter clothing because that was kind of a big deal when we were growing up, and each of the kids, would get their clothes. But we had big department stores back in the day, and that's kind of a thing in the past. But each big department store had a candy counter, and I'm sure that you've got whether you've got a Harrods or even a H&M probably has a candy store there. But I just remember this ginormous candy counter, and you could run around, and my grandparents would always just let me pick out a quarter pound of two different things every time we ever went. So I would just kind of go wild for a little bit and get mix and match and whatever. But I would always just go home and dissect them and figure out how they were made, and then taste them, and then figure out how do these flavors go together? What makes caramel caramel? What makes a French burnt peanut a French burnt peanut? What are these components? And I remember jotting notes as a kid and taking tons of notes. I take notes all the time, and just learning and learning and learning. I got into construction, in my formative years, and that I still looked at the architecture of everything that was around me, and I was surrounded by as artwork and as beauty. And then I would attribute that back into food, and how do I make beautiful architecture taste good? And I got out of construction and into food probably in my mid to late 30s. I kind of started late in a restaurant, and I've never looked back. But I always go back to my youth and understanding the methodology of what the components are and what flavor profiles are to make what I make. And what I'm doing now with William Poole Confections, this is my third chocolate company, if you will, or small business that I've done over the last 25 to 30 years. And hopefully this is my final one. I'm getting a little bit up there in years, but I'm still with that youthful vigor of wanting to create beautiful things for people to enjoy.
For you, I mean, it's a long time to be in the sector. What have you enjoyed most in the past couple of decades of being involved with it?
The two parts of that really do stick out with me. The chocolate element of it is magic to me, and I don't know how else to express that other than the flavor of chocolate itself, or chocolate as a medium, is limitless to what you can do with it. It can become a shelled confection. It can become the confection. It can become a casting from an antique chocolate mold, which is what we're known for, into something of beauty. You can create a tablet with it that you can fill with anything in the world. The other element is panned candies. For some reason, I have just been crazy for panned candies. And that is the process, the components that go into them, the different layers that you can create with them. It keeps me up at night, and it's in a good way, of course, taking notes or figuring out new ways to manufacture something, or to look at manufacturing something. With chocolate, we're looking at creating my own signature blend. I just ordered the equipment today to be able to go bean to bar, and it's small equipment. I mean, we're looking at 10-pound batches right now, but we're looking at possibly roasting our own beans. We're looking at possibly getting in our own beans, having them roasted to our specifications and going from there. We're looking at possibly using nibs and going from there, and finding out which way is the most economical. But right now we're looking at the sourcing side of that, this not only into the sustainability side of that, but regional direct impact for the growers. Everything that affects them will affect our end product. But chocolate and panned candies, I'm crazy for those.
Brilliant. I think that's, a lot of people in our sector would share that passion as well. I think it's a very interesting segment of the market. And just in terms of your own business there, you have, I understand it, a store in New Hampshire there, is that right?
Neill, we're in the process of building out a store, and this has been during COVID. We purchased the building in 2019 in October, and had started the renovations on it. And it turned out to be a little more than what we thought. The building was basically collapsing, and we had to have it completely gutted to the studs. We had to move out. And this was January of 2020, right before COVID decided to set the world on fire. We went to Portland, Oregon, which is about 40 minutes north, in a rental housing situation. 99% of our furnishings and chocolate equipment went into storage, and we were white knuckling it for the next 6 months until June. And we didn't know if we'd even have a place to live at that point, because they were putting, they were releasing moratoriums up in Portland to say, you can't stay here any longer, you've got to go somewhere else. You couldn't get a hotel reservation. But during that time, we got the second floor residence completely built out for us, and the first floor was still gutted. So we've taken most of 2020 to find contractors to do anything from insulation to drywall to the flooring. We had 90% of the equipment ready to go, but it was off site. So just getting the first floor finished has been a struggle for us. And we didn't really get into the fine tuning of the business until January, February of this year. So we are just starting to get inventory in stores in the hopes that we'll be open for Halloween. So we're still being optimistic about it. I just got chocolate in last week from our purveyor, and I am just starting the process of putting our menus together so that we can get everything photographed, packaged, the images onto the website, and getting all of that up for sale.
Fantastic. And yeah, well, it's a good challenge to have there. And prior to that, your business, the model is you've sold a lot online and elsewhere through other retailers. Is that right? Can you explain your retail presence?
Well, sure. So with the last two businesses that I've had, which was Wen Chocolates in Denver, Colorado, that we closed in 2010, and most recently Porter Hill Sweets, which was in Western New Hampshire, I had an online presence that we could make things to order for you, and that included wholesale. And I worked out of a very small kitchen in a residence for a while, and there's complete licensing that goes behind that here in the state of New Hampshire, which is great. But we've been able to do web sales, and I have customers waiting right now and chomping at the bit for us to open so that we can get stocked in their stores. And it's just, I'm still waiting for the kitchen to get finished so that we can get to work.
Well, good luck with that indeed. And in terms of the pandemic overall, we're hopefully moving towards the final chapter in it. Nobody quite knows yet, but how have you coped with it overall yourself?
Personally, being sequestered in our house has been good. I mean, we make weekly trips to the market. That's been about it for us. We've gotten our shots, of course. We've talked with friends, whether on Zoom or other situations. A lot of handwritten notes make it to the mail. But it's been, I think the last 18 months have been a couple months of reflection and a lot of rabbit holes on the internet to find and source the things that I want to play with when the kitchen opens up, when I can go in and do this. So I've got lists upon lists upon lists of items that are coming in as we speak that I'll be able to play with shortly. But it's been a good time for us just to kind of reflect a little bit.
Excellent. I'm glad to hear it. And just regarding your own business there, getting the store up and running, how much of a difference will it make to you in terms of building the profile of the company up?
I think it's going to be a pretty quick process for us. We have been starting the process of PR and teasing a little bit. Whether you look on any of the social media, I haven't really done too much on LinkedIn. I'm waiting on another article to come out before I post a couple of links, but it's been slow, and I don't want to put too much information out there too quickly in case there's a delay. And also in today's 45 characters or less world that we live in, people forget about you so quickly if you're not completely on it 24/7. And I don't want to inundate PR with, oh, look, William Poole's doing this, or William Poole's doing this, or William Poole's doing this. People are going to get bored quickly with that. So impactful PR, strategically done, down to time of day is what we look at for when we post, I think is the key to do that. And then a little bit more as the weeks progress, and a little bit more as we get closer to opening. And then the 2 weeks before opening, we can hit it a little bit harder.
And how difficult is it training in terms of becoming a chocolatier and getting those skills in the first place?
personally, I'm self-taught. And that was in a restaurant scenario a number of years ago where I was thrown into a situation and it was a sink or swim, and I decided to learn about it. And I think that's the moment that it really, that epiphany moment of saying, I can do this, and I can really do something with this outside of this restaurant. But for training, there is specialized independent training you can do. There are numerous chocolate academies all over the world. I did have an opportunity in 2002/2003 into the spring. I had an opportunity to go to the country of Slovenia and work with a catering company, which allowed me some independent study in the area. So I was able to go into Hungary. I went into Austria for a little bit, and in and around Slovenia to learn with some of the people I think are masters in confectionery. And I think it's a really underrated area. I think it's also a well-kept secret, but it is some of the most beautiful chocolates I've ever tasted, and some of the best craftsmanship that I've ever seen, and flavor combinations.
Back home in the US, the artisan confectionery and chocolate market has really come on in recent years. So has that surprised you, the pace of development in the industry?
I am glad that it's been as slow as it has. You know, I was talking in the house the other day of Julia Child, and she's, you know, her series still play on and still play on and still play on here. And we were thinking in the 50s and 60s, people didn't know that grocery stores or hypermarkets even existed, you know, or that there were shallots and garlic available and onions. So I think we've progressed a lot, and the way that confectionery has bubbled up has been extraordinary. I look for the slow progress of food, because I think if you saturate the market too quickly, or you put too much colorful product out there, it's going to overwhelm people. And I don't think that they're going to know what they're eating to begin with. So I'm glad that anyone from, and I'm probably going to horrify this name, but Michel Cluizel is kind of a big name right now here in the States, and he's doing amazing things, and that is helping put those products out there for everyone to enjoy. And there's a number of top name people, you know, Ewald Notter has been putting out stuff. There's stuff throughout the Midwest, and we look regionally to see what's going on. And in our own little pocket of New England, there are some extraordinary chocolaters who are doing beautiful things. And I'm glad for that, because we all have a place. And I don't see it as competition. And the people that I work with, we don't see it as competition. We all work together and we learn from each other.
And from your own perspective, as you say, you've been in the industry for 2 or 3 decades now. How has it changed most during that time, would you say?
You know, that is a really good question. And I've seen, how can I put this? A progression. There's good and bad with our industry. And there's a lot of what I refer to as junk candy. Candy has no nutritional value, mostly. There's a lot of stuff that does, but as we talk in junk candy, that sector has just really exploded. And I think that the pandemic has kind of fueled that fire a little bit, because people have been blindly grazing on anything that's in their pantry. And that is unfortunate, because again, they're right back to just a feedback of they don't even know what they're eating, or do they care. We've seen the introduction of pink chocolate or the ruby chocolate that seems to be a big deal in confectionery, sweets and snacks. And that's great to discover a new type of chocolate, but the uses that it's going for right now, covering biscuits or other things, I don't really see the value of that, other than it's pink and colorful. It's such a huge market that I mean, I can't keep tabs on everything that's happening, and I don't ever want to profess that I can. But I seek out the things that are of interest with that. So it's just interesting seeing where things are going, where other people are headed, and hopefully where other people are gaining acceptance. And even with ourselves, with making our own craft bean to bar chocolate, and hopefully we'll be on a playing field someday. I don't want to take over Hershey or anything, but it's I think it's almost too big considering where they're sourcing their goods from. I'm just wanting to retain our little small place in the world.
And In terms of the trends there, what are the things that you are most most observed? You mentioned about Ruby chocolate there. Any other sort of general market trends that have caught your eye in the past few years?
Oh yeah, right now, and some of the consulting projects I've been on recently are all about heat and sweet combinations. Is using different kinds of capsicum and heat profiles, peppers, against sweet profiles, and whether it's going into something like and I'm not sure if you have a word for it, but cinnamon roll, um, something as simple as that, or an ice cream or a chocolate treat, to have that sweet and heat hit you at the same time, and this is beyond salty and sweet or anything else, but just really pronounced heat that hits you in the right way, that sweetness comes over and cools it off, and it's just a good combination and a great texture.
Very good. It sounds like you've really been trying to keep your ear to the ground about what's happening out there, which I guess you need to in any industry, whatever sector you're in. So yeah, brilliant. And the fact that you're your own master of your own destiny, running your own business, do you enjoy that compared to sort of working in a more corporate environment?
And that is another really great question, because I've given pause. The pandemic has given us pause because we didn't know for a time if we would truly be able to open. And I was putting some feelers out there because I would have no problem bringing the enthusiasm that I have to help someone else drive their goods. I have no problem with that, because I want to see someone succeed, whether it's myself or someone else. I do want to see myself succeed, of course, and I'm doing everything to be able to do that. But no, I would help someone along the way if they needed to, and I do that as well. I get emails and phone calls from former students that I've taught, that we help mentor or help coach or help drive and direct into whatever they need to do. Oh, absolutely. I have a number of contacts in the food sector, which includes savory and restaurant, hotel, and sweets, that are an email away or a phone call away. And I've reached out a couple times to say, hey, how do I ... or how can I find this? If I can't find it on Google or anywhere else, I'll reach out to these people. And again, that's a tight community. I think food service is one of the tighter communities out there, where you should be in it to help mentor people along the way, or be mentored, or allow yourself to be mentored along the way. And I'm thankful for the people that I have in my life, professionally speaking, that can offer that insight, because they either have more experience or they've done it in a different way. And I'm very thankful for that.
Absolutely. And obviously these are challenging times for us all. What, on the flip side of things, you've talked about some of the good things that have happened. So what are the biggest challenges you faced in your career so far?
And well, right now I'll reflect back on the last 15, 18 months is the supply chains. Trying to get product right now is kind of a bear, because trucks are backed up. We had the Suez Canal situation a couple months ago already. Trying to source products that can get to you in a timely manner without being perished or otherwise compromised is difficult right now, and it is not letting up anytime soon. And that includes refrigerated perishables. That includes stock items that you should normally be able to get. I'm not just talking at a grocery store level or convenience store. It's stuff that we would need to be able to make product. I wasn't sure I'd be able to get 600 pounds of chocolate from our purveyor, because their trucks were empty, because they can't get product out of Central America right now because of not only COVID, but the devastation of COVID, transportation, everything. It screwed up all the way across the board. Shipping out for us is going to be a problem. We have the United States Postal Service, in addition to FedEx and UPS and everything else. We are trying diligently to come up with better pricing for our customers, to make sure that we're not we'll have to charge what we have to charge. And unfortunately, I think that's going to turn some people away from our door. The true people who are really connected to our product will hopefully pay the price for shipping to get it to their doorstep. But it is one of those moments of, what do we do? And how do we help drive that business or salvage that business? Those are the things that we're facing right now. And that's, October, thankfully, the weather's going to be better, so we might be able to use the Postal Service. But shipping from, the Boston area to Los Angeles normally was 2 days is maybe 7 or more now. So chocolate in the back of a truck, I don't feel so good about that. So these are things that we do look at, and trying to roll those prices into the things that we are purchasing is going to affect, not only our bottom line, but our profit margin and the products that we put on the shelves. And I don't want to price ourselves out of the market, but trying to educate people to say, these are the prices and this is why. For a small batch confectioner, that's an envelope I've got to push every day.
Yeah, I think this is absolutely. And just looking to wider events, you've been to a number of locations. From what you've explained there, what, in terms of the industry, what have you enjoyed most about it so far in your career, would you say?
Oh my gosh. Yeah, wow, that is, I think the entire journey is what I've enjoyed, because I've worked in restaurants, I've worked in hotels, I've owned a hotel, I've worked on a private luxury train, I've taken the holiday to Europe to be able to work, and I think that it isn't so much the destination of, oh, I've arrived. I think the entire journey of everything that I'm doing and continue to do is where I get my high. And it's a daily occurrence where you wake up and I say, yay, I get to make candy today, or I get to meet someone who is as enthusiastic as we are. We met a bean to bar chocolater this weekend in Exeter, which is about 20 minutes, or actually 20 miles south of us. And she has been doing it for about 5 years. She just opened her store in August of last year during COVID, and is making bean to bar. And her products is exceptional. We're looking at carrying some of the products in our own store because we believe in her that much. And it is just nice to see another craftsman out there who giggles like I do, or laughs like I do in conversation, because she is that enthused about it. That's what helps, I think, drive people into your store. That's what helps drive people to your business. That word of mouth to say, you know what, you're in my shop, go spend a penny with her on your way back home, or go check out these other 5 chocolate shops on your way home. I think that's what helps keeps us together.